Well, let's broaden this conversation. Phumlani Majozi, fellow at the African Liberty, is joining us here in South Africa. Thank you, Phumlani, for joining us here on the program.
Pleasure.
It's going to be quite an interesting week and a very busy week as thousands of delegates converge here in Johannesburg. What stands out for you at this BRICS summit?
Well, the first one is that the Russian president couldn't make it here. The second one is the talk of the BRICS expansion, right? There are about 20 or more than 20 countries that have really applied or want to be part of the BRICS group of countries, and also the talk of moving away from the dollar, forming the common currency amongst the BRICS countries. So this year is quite it's a hot sort of BRICS summit that we are seeing this year. Very hot issues will be put on the table, and those issues, depending on how things go, they are likely to shape how the world will look like. What will be sort of the alliances we are going to see over the next years or a decade or so. So this one is so those issues I've touched on, I think they are very important to watch because they are very big. They will reshape the conversation amongst the BRICS countries as well as globally as well.
Interesting times as well, particularly around the issue of geopolitics here. And we are seeing quite a number of countries, particularly from Africa, that have expressed interest in joining the BRICS group. Why do you think there is so much interest this time around?
Well, remember there's a global shift. There's a global there are global changes that have been taking place over the last 2 years or so now, one could say. And the tipping point was reached with the Ukraine-Russia war, where we saw these sort of divisions between what we could call the Western countries or the developed countries with the developing world. So there has been the view of what the outcome should be about on Russia-Ukraine war, the war that really affected or impacted the global markets. It impacted African countries to a very big extent in terms of trade, food security, and so on. So now we are seeing this conversation as China steps up to somehow look as a leader, which is very good. We do need that, and China has been trying to play that role over the past year or so. And we are seeing African countries really stepping up to say we need a new form of a global order, right, where there is no sort of hegemony or one country being too dominant, but rather sort of countries working together to try and do what is best for the world and what is best for Africa. And Africans, they are desperate to see a global order that really puts their interests ahead as well.
And what do you expect? What are the expectations coming out of the summit?
Well, the main thing I expect from this summit is really groundwork, because I think the idea of the BRICS group of countries is gaining traction, right? So there has to be groundwork as to how trade would be bolstered, right? The issues of how the Ukraine-Russia war, what exactly is the standing of these countries, and I do expect that we are going to see some groundwork around the BRICS group sort of currency, sort of moving away, this idea of countries trying to move away from the dollar. I expect there will be some serious groundwork being done for that, and then of course the next BRICS summit would really be the build-up on the serious groundwork that has been done around those issues here in South Africa.
All right, Phumlani Majozi, thank you very much for joining us.